Hey, welcome everybody. Today I'm with Robin, who's agreed to join me for one of our meditation sessions, meditation guidance sessions. And thanks for joining, Robin. And first, I'd actually like to hear a little bit about your background. I saw that you read that you had, some years ago, you've been practicing on your own quite a bit, and you've also done some guided meditations with people like Sam Harris. Can you tell me a little bit more about your practice?
Well, my practice was very much sort of self-directed, aside from, recorded guided meditations that are available through people like Sam Harris, etc.
Yeah.
I used to run a leadership development program, so it was sort of part of the curriculum to incorporate this into one's, if you will, self-leadership practice, self-mastery,
Yeah.
and I continue to think that's a very important part of one's self-leadership. But I left that job about 4 years ago,
Mhm.
and it has occurred to me that it's a little easier when you're telling other people what they ought to be doing than if you're sort of out of that environment, and then I have to sort of point the finger at myself and say
Sure.
I ought to be doing that.
Yeah.
But
Sure.
so I left it because I didn't have the discipline that I was trying to promote amongst other people, which I feel badly about. But that's the
Mhm.
that's the story. That's the truth.
Yeah, that's quite common, actually. Yeah. Tell me something. You said that before I turned on the recording, you said that this has come at a good time for you. You want to say anything about that?
Yeah, I am trying to find a way to sort of detach a little bit from the daily assault of our political situation here in the United States. It is a
Understandable.
part. It's a part of my work, but I also take it very personally.
Mm.
It's a, it and I get carried away by what's sort of swirling around me, and I don't have an off button, and I really need one.
Yeah. Yeah, that's very understandable. Okay, so let me just ask you a little bit about the meditation that you had been doing, or that you probably sometimes even still, maybe sometimes do. Because I just need to know, were you doing more of a mindfulness-based meditation? I guess that's what Sam Harris is like.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, and did you have any type of method that you followed, or was it kind of like intuitive for you?
Very, very much intuitive. Yeah,
Yeah, and
and very short bursts. They were talking 10 minutes in the morning.
okay. And when you would sit down or whatever you would do to meditate, where would you focus your attention? On the body, on an image, or on the mind?
Um, Both actually. I do think that there's a lot of data that comes from the body, so I'd like to do a body scan to sort of see where I was holding stress. But eventually, then I would um, sort of get out of that once I, sort of
Hmm.
had connected with that,
Yeah.
and then just really think, if nothing, I guess I would concentrate on um, uh, a mental image of nothing.
A mental image of nothing. That's interesting. Okay. So let me just see if I get this right. So you'd, generally speaking, maybe not all the time, but generally speaking, you'd start to do a body scan.
Yeah.
And that would kind of anchor you into the present moment, I assume.
Hmm. Hmm.
Okay. And then when you said when you would connect with that, that means when you felt that your mind had kind of settled in on the present moment. So you would use that scan as a way to kind of drop into the present.
Yeah.
And
Hmm.
then you would shift into what you called a mental image of nothing.
Yeah, I tried to, sort of get lost, and not
What do you mean by
really
get
have
lost?
get sort of remove myself.
Hmm.
Once I sort of brought myself in, this sounds very odd, I'm sure, but once I
No,
had
not
brought
at all. Not
myself
at all.
in, then I
Uh,
tried to sort of like get out of that
yeah.
and really not have an image in mind, but it was visual, but it was a visual of blankness as much as possible.
Well, okay. So when you say visual, do you mean what would appear like in the mind's eye,
Yes,
or do you
yes.
mean you would create a visualization?
No, it was whatever,
Right.
the blankness of what was in my mind's eye, which is just sort of a kaleidoscope. Whenever you close your eyes, what you see there is what I was concentrating on.
Okay. And if you were to give that if there was some attribute to this I think first you said emptiness or blankness or whatever it is.
Mm,
If there
mm.
was some attribute to that, could you give it anything? Is there any quality you could assign to that?
Um, Sort of if if you think of sort of neurons and synapses, that I guess that's what I was envisioning. Just a lot of um, sort of a web-like connecting, lots of different points of connections, I suppose.
Now, is that something you would see? Because let's, for example, I've seen, let's say, graphic animations and stuff of neurons, flashing like that. Would you
Hmm.
would you see that image, or would you just kind of feel that that was going on?
I would see the image. Now, one could sort of assume that I was conjuring it up, I suppose, but I would. That's what I would see.
Well, that's what I'm actually trying to discern, and
Hmm.
it could be either. I'm not saying it's one or
Hmm.
the other. And I'm just could you kind of describe what exactly you see?
It.
I mean, when you say neurons and stuff, that's a concept that I understand. Yeah,
Yeah,
I just
yeah.
like
Well,
want
like a
to.
big, well, big, sort of a uh, three-dimensional,
Hmm.
let's say, like an amoeba kind
Hmm.
of thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it was in the visual field, the internal, the mind's eye, the visual field of the mind's eye.
Yes.
And it
Yes.
was colored in some way.
Yes, very much. Definitely.
Can you describe it?
Usually, sort of um, actually more gray and gold kind of,
Hmm. Okay.
um, fairly, fairly consistently.
Okay. And you mentioned it was 3D, it's three-dimensional. It wasn't just a
Mm,
flat picture, but it was
no, it was
some object.
definitely had depth. Yeah.
Okay. And how stable would the mind be? Would your mindfulness be on the object? Like, did thoughts come in, or did you wander off for a few minutes and then come back
I
there again?
got pretty good because I
Great.
was I was doing it for a number of years. So,
Okay.
by the time I had, sort of been in the practice for a
Mhm.
while, I was pretty good about staying there.
Yeah, that sounds great. So now here's my question. When you would, let's say, somehow with your awareness, attention, with your mindfulness and concentration, you were able to hold that amoeba-like synapses, whatever we want to call it, you were able to hold your attention on it. What would happen to it?
It would often change form, but not. It had animation for sure.
Hmm.
Um, it had layers. Different
Hmm.
layers would sort of appear.
Okay, appear,
Some,
or was there any movement in those layers?
yeah, yeah. They
Can you
would sort
describe
of they
that?
would fold over on themselves.
Okay, okay. Would they ever unfold, or was it always folding in,
Uh, Gosh, I don't remember.
undefined in a way?
Yeah, I don't remember, but I know that there was definitely movement. It wasn't a static image at all.
Okay, so you would do the scan to kind of establish yourself in the present moment,
Hmm.
and you would kind of, I guess, evoke this state, evoke this what you call the image of nothingness or a blank, and this somehow the synapses or the amoeba-like, I think you said golden yellow colors or
Yeah,
whatever,
yeah.
and it would have layers. And this sounds, so what we've talked about right now, this sounds like kind of the peak of where your let's say your concentration would take you.
Mm.
And would it ever, did you ever experience anything after that or anything beyond that? Or was it that kind of the leading edge of your practice that you would get
That
into?
was Yeah, that was it. I mean, we were talking 10 minutes, so
Hmm.
there was really not an opportunity to go to even see what could have transpired beyond that period of
Okay.
time. I don't
And,
think.
and, and after your 10-minute practice,
Hmm.
what was your mental state like, usually, generally speaking?
Um, I would feel not lighter. I actually didn't feel lighter. I felt more grounded. I felt
Mm,
more connected.
okay. And so grounded for me is kind of a physical thing. I guess the mind
Hmm.
settled down, connected, maybe energetic. But what I mean by mental state, was the mind relaxed? Was it quiet? Was it busy? Was it like, thank God that's over?
No, I cherished that 10 minutes at the start of my day. I really did. I wasn't happy it was over at all.
So
Um,
you finish with,
yeah.
could you say calmness at the end of this?
Yeah, it felt like a respite. Yeah, it felt like, oh, that was a nice timeout. And I'm able to, I don't know, just be a little bit more ready for
Hmm.
whatever sort of
Hmm.
was coming. I felt more alert, I guess,
Yeah, and when you
more
said more,
aware. Yeah,
and when you said more connected, connected with what?
with myself,
Yeah.
certainly with myself. Yeah, like I felt like I was, as I was going through the day, I would be able to make choices from a far more integrated, um, uh, far more integrated in terms of operating from a calmer center, I guess.
Yeah, so
Not, yeah,
the calmness was more integrated. You had more integrity in how you would
yeah,
make choices
exactly,
for the day. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
that's awesome. That's one of the beautiful benefits of meditation. It sounds like, I mean, and it sounds like you actually were able to access the concentration through the body scan. I mean, everybody comes in at different levels, and even when you've been practicing for years, there's often, we meet new layers and new levels of difficulty, and the hindrances can be quite strong. But it seemed like you were able to kind of work through the hindrances relatively quick, and that you would enter into this kind of more concentrated state where you would have this kind of, let's say, I don't want to say visualization because it wasn't a visualization, but a visual experience would appear,
Mm-hmm.
and that would be your focus of meditation from that point
Yeah.
on.
Yeah.
Yeah, great. And why'd you stop? It sounds like
Uh,
so cool. It sounds like you're in a good practice.
it was. It was.
Mm-hmm.
I left my job. I mean, I had many different changes,
Mm-hmm.
and I started a new job that had me very much in the front lines of um, democracy reform work in the United States,
Okay, so
and
very involved.
I was in a constant state of battle stations, and I
Yeah.
just didn't feel like I had time. And even if I did, I knew it wouldn't. I don't know. It's like I I got called away and never came back.
Yeah, and now, I mean, you answered this, you responded to this offer, so you must have something that called you back to have some type of intention to practice again.
It yes, I am entering a phase where I need to be reintegrated and have that sense of calm, um, because I'm going to be doing some work that will require it, and I need to be um, re recentered and also not allow external forces to sort of throw me around, and I'm feeling like that's happening right now.
Yeah, you're still involved with
I am. I am. And will be for, it'll be a fairly intense year and a half coming up.
okay.
Mm.
All right. So you actually, and especially if it's the political nature and the way things are today in the States, it's
Mm.
highly, it's like we're at a critical point in history. I guess you could say. So the meditation will actually support you probably like nothing else will support you in that work. And what was beautiful about what you described is that, after back when you were practicing more regularly, after your 10-minute morning routine, it's like a refresh, a recharge, a renewal. You're back in a state of calmness. You would
Mm.
reset and be back integrated to who you were, to who you are, I should say. And you can imagine that that's a highly that's an amazing skill to have. It's an important skill to have these days. So what
It
I would
is.
recommend, I mean, before I kind of give my little prescription here at the end for you, do you have any questions for me? I mean, first I would say that you get a great mindfulness practice. It's the body scan is a wonderful anchor to bring you into the present moment. And once you're in the present moment, what I heard is that you intuitively kind of moved into something a little bit more expansive, a little bit more choiceless, and and far more refined. Because if you've done body scans, you know that you get into more and more details, and
Mm.
it's infinite the amount of subtlety that you can discover in the body. But then
Yes.
once you move to the mind, it's several degrees more subtle. So to be able to kind of hold your attention on a mental state, a mental, let's say mental, I'll call what you were talking about, I'm going to call it an object because that's where you would focus your attention. To be able to hold your attention on a mental object for more than just a few seconds, much less a few minutes, it's already a very refined state, and that means that that the right amount of effort, I mean effort in the right in the good sense of the term, to hold the attention, the mindfulness and the awareness and the concentration kind of came together in a nice balanced way. And that's something that you should be able to get back to.
I hope
With
so.
practice. I mean, you remember before you get to that place where the mind is just kind of resting with the experience, you'll face the hindrances, and the hindrances are nothing more than the defense mechanisms of the ego. Because the states you're talking about actually helps consciousness to expand. That's the nature of consciousness, that there's no boundaries, it will expand. And the nature of our ego, our personal self, or the separate sense of self, is to contain. So when you activate mindfulness, you're actually activating the defense mechanisms of the ego, and things like, desires to go get something to eat, or sleepiness, or restlessness, or aversion, or, bad feelings about, that person, this person, and doubts. All of these things can come up. And if we allow our mind to indulge these, or, and this is the tricky thing, if we're resisting, that internal struggle with ourself, then our meditation is effectively stopped. The defense mechanism has succeeded. It contains the separate sense of self, which is where we suffer, basically, because there's just not enough room for us to kind of live in there. So you should be patient as you get back into your practice. You should be patient with the mind. It might take a little time to get back to where you were, but I do believe you'll be able to get back there pretty regularly. And what I would recommend is your body scan, for sure. That seems like a wonderful anchoring method for you. The method I teach is more in the belly, following the breath in and out, but it doesn't really matter what you use. If the body scan is working for you, the breath and the body are both physical, so they're kind of a slightly more gross object, and it's easier to anchor the mind. And as soon as you feel that the mind is there for some seconds or even a minute or two, more or less, the mind will slip off and come back and slip off and come back. Don't worry about the slipping away. Just kind of, note that, be aware of it, come back. And the moment you feel that it's there, I think it's, for you, it's intuitive anyways. The moment you feel that you're what did you say? I'm not sure what you said, but something about dropping into the present moment, that you've arrived with the present moment. Then if you want to open up to this more kind of blankness experience, and then that's probably a good thing. Now, what I would suggest additionally is when you feel you're there, and then maybe you see a three-dimensional object, or maybe you just know that you're in this kind of stable meditative state, from time to time, check back in with the body scan.
Okay.
Excuse me. Check back in with the body scan and notice the difference in the body scan before you kind of spent some minutes in that state, and after. And make the shift really kind of natural and smooth. It won't break the concentration or anything. That, in fact, it'll probably be more beneficial to the concentration. When you find that you're in your best state, you're going to max that out. That's kind of intuitively where it seems like your leading edge is. But also practice a little integrating it into the body a little bit, maybe integrating it into the feelings, or if emotion comes up, integrate that same state in the emotion without identifying, neither indulging the emotion or resisting the emotion. That's always the key. The ego indulges or resists, and mindfulness is that perfect balance right between. And then the other recommendation I would give, at the end of your meditation, really take account of where you're at. Because the shift in state experience is always temporary, and I guess the afterglow of that state is also temporary. It will fade, but the more attention you give to it, let's say you finish meditating, just kind of be with yourself for a few minutes and really kind of take an assessment of how that feels and what it's like. And that will strengthen it. The recognition will continue to strengthen that, and it will help you with the integration.
That's helpful. That's good. I feel like it's I have some muscle memory around this, so getting
Great.
back into it is not going to be that difficult. Although I am in a very different emotional state now than I was when I first started my practice. That's what worries me, is I'm sort of I'm carrying very different emotions.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, there's, in terms of your muscle memory, you'll be surprised how, I shouldn't say how quick it is to get back there, but you'll be surprised how easy it is to get back. It may take a few days, a few weeks even, but you'll get back there. That won't, I can promise you. The mind knows how to go there.
Yeah.
Now, the current state of your mind and the situation will have some effect, of course. You got to navigate those waters a little bit, but remember the navigating of those, let's say, internal challenges, mental, emotional challenges, personal challenges. The navigating of those with mindfulness is the very exercise that strengthens your mindfulness muscle. It's like when you lift weights, the muscles get bigger. Every time you activate mindfulness, the mindfulness muscle is strengthening.
Yes.
Incrementally, and being mindful of the more challenging emotional states and the political state of the world. Bringing your mindfulness to that. First, it's super important to make better choices, like you said. But every moment we do that, we're actually strengthening our mindfulness. So just going to remind yourself that as challenging as it can be, it's a strengthening. And if you need a day off, take a day off. Don't. It's not helpful to judge yourself about.
That's not a good out for me, because I will do it. So I know myself.
Okay, fair enough.
Once I
Yeah,
start it, I have to do, even if it's an imperfect practice. I really need to do it. Yeah.
Well, that's fair enough. So what I would say is just take care that you don't judge yourself for falling off the wagon or something like that. Because self-judgment, it just piles on. It just makes it worse. So that's something you want to kind of keep your eye on a little bit.
Sure.
Two additional practices that I and these are easy practices that I would give you is create bridging. Or bridging practices is how to kind of create that the experience you find from the sitting into your daily life. And one good way to do that is kind of create like a mindfulness sandwich. So anytime you're going into a new situation, let's say you're going to meet a person and it's going to be a challenging conversation. Stop, take a minute or two, and just kind of do your body scan, drop into mindfulness, go into the meeting, do the meeting, and then at the end of the meeting, again, stop for a couple of minutes and do your mindfulness practice. And you can do that around you can do that before you eat a meal, before you drink a cup of coffee, before you meet somebody that's challenging, before you meet somebody that's wonderful, somebody you love to hang out with, before you do anything. But the before and the after. And I recommend kind of fixing 2 or 3 that you're going to do throughout the week, intentionally.
Yeah.
And then later that might become a little bit more intuitive and kind of natural, organic, I should say.
Yep.
Yeah. So that's the mindfulness sandwich.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the first thing I recommended is you'll get back into the practice. You remember, you'll find your way back to where you were. But when you find yourself in that, let's say that you're a little bit your leading edge of meditation, occasionally try other methods, like go do the body scan or follow the breath, and then go back to that state and just see what you see. Because mixing it up is really, eventually the mixing it up happens quite naturally. But mixing it up can actually help to also integrate that state into different experiences.
Interesting. Okay.
So that's, let's just say mix it up a little bit when you're in the state, not before, when you're in it.
Yeah.
Yeah. The second thing is create mindfulness sandwiches throughout the day. And the third thing, especially for our current situation that is so polarized, so horrible, so if you allow yourself to feel, it is really painful what's going on. Have you ever practiced metta or loving kindness?
No.
Okay, so loving kindness it's considered a guardian meditation, and sometimes it's also seen as an antidote. Loving kindness is is radiating loving kindness to yourself and to other people in the world. And you do that, there's 3 lines, 4 lines, 3 lines. First one is, you always start with yourself. The first line is, may I be free from physical harm. The second line is, may I be free from mental suffering. So there's my body and there's my mind. I'm just wishing myself to be healthy of body, happy, healthy of body, happy, healthy of mind. So may I be free from physical harm. May I be free from mental suffering. May I be well and happy. So you take a few moments and you just kind of inwardly say that to yourself, always starting with yourself first. Then you move to a near and dear person, somebody that's part of your inner circle, family member or friend or whatever. May this person, may my mother, or may this person be free from physical harm. May they be free from mental suffering, and may they be well and happy. And you just do that for a few moments, starting with yourself. Then you go to a near and dear person. The third exercise, or they're like concentric ripples. They're right. Moving out. As we move out, we pick a neutral person. Mm-hmm. It could be the bus driver, or somebody who works at the coffee shop, or somebody you see occasionally. It doesn't really matter. But they're neither. They're not different. They're just neutral. Mm-hmm. May this person be free from physical harm. May this person be free from mental suffering, and maybe this person be well and happy. Just really wishing that.
Right. So I see where we're going with this.
Yeah, good. Okay. And the last one is called, the fourth and the last one is called the enemy, or the difficult person. Mm-hmm. And that could be somebody you know personally. It could be somebody living or passed away. Or it could be somebody that you don't know personally, but they happen to be dominating the news these days, for example. And I practice this one myself, and I'm not saying it's a magical formula, but it matters for you. It matters for me. May this person, who I have the hardest time with, be free from physical harm, but really mean it, Yeah. And may this person be free from mental suffering. My God, if this person didn't have mental suffering,
there'd be far less suffering for all of us. That were the case.
Yeah, right. So you've got the compassion to understand that. May they be free from mental suffering, and may they be well and happy.
Yeah.
And then you're still going to fight the good. You're still going to fight the good fight. We're not giving up. We're not seceding any territory here, but we're praying for them in a way.
Yeah.
We're wishing our best.
Yeah. And that's going to be helpful. That's going to be very helpful.
Well, you're going to, and then again, like I told you with the meditation, check when you finish it. Takes about 5 minutes. Mm-hmm. Check in with your own energetic body, mind, and see where you'll feel a shift. Already just talking about this, I feel a shift opening up in here. Yep. And the more, slowly we're moving our reference point from more of our more egoic state, which is not necessarily a bad thing. It's just kind of limited, and to a more kind of open and free, liberated state that is free to choose, like you had mentioned. And that happens both in our meditation and also in the metta practice.
Mm-hmm. Okay. That's great. That's so helpful. Thank you.
So I'll say these 3 things again. So when you find yourself back to the state that you know, check in with, occasionally go back to the body scan or maybe the breath to integrate it a little bit more, and then go back to that state. After you finish meditation, sit with your experience for a little while and just kind of take an assessment. It's not really an analysis, it's more of a synthesis, but do an assessment of your state. Then create sandwiching practices throughout the day, or throughout the week, however you want to do it. Yep. Mindfulness before, activity, mindfulness after. Yep. And then the 4th one is metta, starting with yourself, near and dear person, neutral person, and a so-called enemy or challenging person. Mm-hmm. Okay.
All right. I've got it.
I hope you're able to kind of get back into things, and that it not only does it bring you the benefit that you got from it before, but it even just continues to grow, and not just for yourself, but the people you come into contact with.
Yeah, thank you very much. This will be helpful for me so that I can be more helpful to others, and that's the the phase I'm going into right now. So like I said, this is very helpful in terms of the timing and just remembering what I already know at some level, but then
Yeah.
sort of adding some of these other practices. Already I know that that's going to take me, further out of my chaotic state and into more of a gracious state from which I can operate. Yeah, I need
That's
to do that.
beautiful. That's great, Robin. So I wish you all the luck, and I
Thank you.
really wish you the luck in your work you're doing because we need
Thank
it.
you. Thank you. Well, there's a
And
lot of oars in this water, so that I think that,
including
yeah.
mine.
Yes, good. Good to know.
Exactly.
Good to know.
And
Thank you for the opportunity as well.
absolutely, absolutely. And this one, I'm probably going to go ahead and just put this up on the blog within maybe even tomorrow, so you'll be able to see the replay.
Okay.
Yeah, if you have any questions, you can always contact me and just let me know, and I'll do what I can to.
I will indeed. Thank you
And
again for the offer.
absolutely, and thank you for I don't want to say guinea pig because that's really the wrong word, but thank you for helping me to do this coaching session.
I'm happy to be a guinea pig. No worries
All right.
whatsoever. And thank you again for the work that you do. And have a lovely day.
Yeah, thank you, Robin.
All right.
Absolutely. All the
Bye
best to
bye.
you.